Hi there. So my name is Jessica Tate, and I am going to be presenting on the adaptation techniques that ski area managers and leaders can use to minimize the effect of global climate change on the ski industry. So kind of just a quick overview. Climate change is an evidence-based phenomenon that will and has already begun to have an effect on ski areas. And all tourism and recreation sector businesses are greatly affected by climate, and that's true for warm weather destinations. And that really has to do with the ability for visitors to change where they're going. So, say I had a really great ski holiday planned and the conditions just aren't what I want, so I'll just go somewhere else. So, the ski industry is particularly vulnerable to these changes in climate. And the studies have indicated that there will be negative impacts on ski areas. So, a little bit of history and background. I think we're all pretty familiar with global climate change in this class, and it's just a fact that global temperatures have increased over the last 100 years. Resorts have seen less snow, receding glaciers, melting permafrost, and landslides. Those are some of the greater overarching phenomena that happen over decades. And then the research also shows that despite global efforts to decrease greenhouse gas emissions, we are still going to see a general trend of warmer temperatures because of our past emissions. So even though there's a lot of really, really great work being done now to mitigate the greenhouse gas emissions and to decrease them in the future, there's still some, irreversible damage that has been done. So it's something that we need to address. It's not something that we can ignore. So I thought it would be kind of interesting. These are all snips from the media about this issue. And I have to admit, when I started researching this, I had seen all of this and I thought, wow, maybe this is really, really dire for the industry. And as we know, the media has a tendency to exaggerate problems, but I just kind of thought these were interesting. So climate change threatens the ski industry. That's mostly true. I mean, how big the threat is, we'll find out. But as climate change imperils winter, the ski industry frets. This one's good. Climate change could decimate the American ski industry. And my favorite, New York Times opinion, the end of snow? But what if we adapt? So what if we, as managers in the ski industry, find techniques, implement them, and continue to research them so that we can minimize the negative impacts of global climate change? So this chart represents a lot of different adaptations that can come from a lot of different sectors of the ski industry, but I'm going to focus on the technological practices of snowmaking, slope development, and operational practices, and something called cloud seeding. So I think most of us are aware of snowmaking. It was interesting to do some more research on this. It's the most widespread technique. They began implementing it in 1952, and it already represents a sizable amount of operational expenses because making snow is not cheap. The amount of skiable terrain in America, it varies between 62 to 95% depending on the region, so that's really huge. And snowmaking extends the season by 55 days on average. So that's huge right there. A couple more techniques regarding slope development and operations is focuses a lot around what we can do in the summer maintenance, slope contouring, special landscaping, strategic planting, so planting trees and other plants in the best places to optimize the effect on the snow, the development of north-facing slopes, and the development of terrain in areas with more favorable climates and at higher elevations, and then also timing, so actually making the resorts open less, shorter seasons, but increased capacity for visitors, which and so you can concentrate your snowmaking costs to those times. So another technique I found interesting to research is cloud seeding. So it's a weather modification strategy usually used in agriculture. You can see from the list on the left there some of the resorts that currently use this. Unfortunately, there's little scientific evidence that this is a viable or economic way. There's little evidence that it actually works really well. And so you can see from that chart how it is supposed to work. They put silver iodide in planes and then release it into the clouds, and then it, in theory, creates snowfall. So while this technology maybe isn't ready yet, it's definitely somewhere where we could see more development, maybe to make it a more viable option. So a couple more options. We have the formation of ski conglomerates, which is a little bit, I would say, controversial. You don't want to be putting all of the mom and pop ski resorts out of business, but ski conglomerates are better at adapting because they can spread their risk over multiple geographic areas. So that is one technique. Also, revenue diversification, which includes lessons in retail, which we've talked about in this class. Activities for non-skiers, so that kind of goes back to the hospitality aspect of all of this. How can ski towns and resorts make their their hotels and lodges more fun to be at, make people still want to go on their ski vacation even if the conditions aren't great. um, making making resorts into 4-season resorts, so really capitalizing and diversifying into that summer season. As you can see from that picture, mountain biking is a huge one. And then also indoor ski slopes, that is another option that we could see more of uh, with global climate change. So what does this all mean? Conclusions and recommendations for managers. So I saw in the research that recognition of climate change as a real issue is really increasing in the ski industry, which is good. And kind of the prediction for how this is all gonna happen is that we're gonna see more contractions and consolidations of businesses in the industry. So that means more of those ski conglomerates, unfortunately or unfortunately, depending who you ask, and just because they are able to adapt faster. And so really who's at risk are the smaller, less diversified resorts. Um, so kind of the takeaway or the practical applications are going to be snowmaking technologies, especially developing the snowmaking technology so that it's more efficient, especially in warmer temperatures, and so that it uses less water. So those are really huge. And my questions for the class are, what do you think are the most effective ways of ski area diversification? So that could be some of the ones that I mentioned, or there might be some really great techniques that I didn't research. So I'd love to hear those. And do you see climate change as a significant threat to the industry? Do you believe the media saying that it could, decimate the American ski industry, or do you see it a little bit more like it's something that we're going to be able to plan and adapt for? And what ski adaptation techniques do you consider most feasible? Again, that could be something that I mentioned, or it could be something completely different. So, yeah, I would just like to thank you all for watching, and I've really enjoyed this class. So the next slide is my sources, so feel free to check those out.